Okay. Let's see who's on. Doesn't look like anyone's on yet. So, pop a message up. There we go, got someone. Pop your name in the chat box. Harrison Naman. As soon as you are on. And we'll start having a look at your homework. Put this way. So definitely this way. That's what I want to achieve. Cool. Right, Harris, how are you doing? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through your homework first of all, and then I'm going to show you something completely different. What you're going to need today is pencil, paper, hey, Damon, and a ruler. So you need to have those things ready for you. We're first going to go through your homework, but then I'm going to teach you something that's connected to what we've been doing, but requires you to be able to graph sketch. All right? So that's something that you'll need. So if you haven't got pencil and paper as it stands, go and get it now for me. All right? So fetch up pencil and paper. While you're doing that, I'll start putting up some of the things from your homework. From Numan, you had 3d squared plus 22d plus 7. And for that, you needed to times the 21 and add to 22. Why are you being weird today? So, whoops. Here we go. Let me see my data for you. Bake yourself out there. Why is that like that? Interesting. Are you guys still on? Can you put something in the chat box? Because right now, as it stands, it doesn't look like anyone's on. From what I can see anyways. I should be able to turn. I don't know why it's not turning. So pop something in the chat box if you can actually hear this. Did you guys just get disconnected just a moment ago? Okay, but some buffering. Okay, cool. So I'm going to cover this one for Numan. I'll have a look at your homework in a second, Harris. You will need pencil, paper, and a ruler for today. All right? Don't worry too much about the buffering. You can always go back and watch it again. It's not a problem. And the problem that you seem to have, Numan, with this was you were stuck on 7 and 3, which doesn't work, obviously. The numbers you should have been using are 21 and 1. Because 21 times 1, sorry, I apologize, I should try and curl that around here to see it. 21 times 1 is, of course, 21. 21 plus 1 is 22. So that's what you needed to do here. So your next line goes 3d squared plus 21d plus 1d plus 7. So 3d d plus 7. And this is what I mean. Once your idea fails, like 7 and 3 failed, let it go. Because it's not going to give you an answer that you want. So there must be other factors. So it might be a good idea to look for factors. Once your first set of factors didn't work, try doing a different set of factors rather than just trying to force 7 and 3, which was never going to work. Yeah, I know that's the problem. Because you can see from your working, you went with 7 and 3. Whatever happens, you're going to stick with 7 and 3. But 7 and 3 weren't going to give you the answer. So don't do 7 and 3. Once you've proved to your satisfaction that 7 and 3 can't be it, forget about 7 and 3. Pick other numbers, right? Okay, just gonna have a look at some of the rest. Just in general for your homework, all of them seem to be missing the last step. I'll write down an example. I'll just have a look at the first one. I'm just gonna rub this out now. I think you've got the idea behind it. If not, you can always rewatch. So you'd write something as your final line, which will say, let's say 4e plus 1 plus, you didn't put the plus sign, but I'm going to put it in there for you, e plus 1. And that's good. It's not wrong. Let me just pop that so you can see it. That's not incorrect what you wrote, but it's not the final answer either. The definition of factorization means you're putting things into brackets. Well, that's not the definition of factorization, but you need to do that. That should be your final line of working out, right? So for all of your lines of working out, there was that one last line where you collect the terms that are outside the brackets and put them in their own bracket, okay? So for every single one of your answers, there's that last step missing, and you wouldn't get full credit in the exam. In fact, you'd lose the mark on the final answer. Because the final answer is this number. So number 1 you couldn't do. So I'll do number 1. Number 2 you got. Did you? 3d squared. No, 2 is flat out wrong, but I've shown you how to do it. 3 is done right. 4 is done right. 6x squared, 3x, 4x. Doesn't look, that's 36, 6x squared, 15x6. Yeah, see, 5 is wrong. What did you get for 5? You got 6x plus 3. That would have done it, I would have thought. Now, would it, though? Yeah, it would have. So, yeah, for you, Harris, you got 1 wrong. You got 2 wrong, but I corrected it. And you got 5 wrong. So I'm going to do 1 and 5, and then we're going to move on. Remember what I said? You're going to need pencil, ruler, paper for the next bit. Because you got maybe 2 out of 5 right. It's a 40% pass mark. That's not good. So let's have a look at this. So 4e squared plus 13e plus 9. So what are the rules? You need 2 numbers that times to make 36. Where did 36 come from? 4 times 9 is 36. And add to make 13. All right? And those numbers are literally just 4 and 9. Okay? Very, very easy to find. Put them there. You get 4e squared plus 4e plus 9e plus 9. It's a really simple one, this one. And remember, that was the rule, wasn't it? We split this up into the 2 numbers that work. Factorize out 4e on the first one, 4e plus 1. Factorize 9 on the second one, 9e plus 1. What's your final answer then? I'll move this back a little bit so you can see it a little more comfortably. 4e plus 9e plus 1. Job done. Yeah? Very, very simple. Okay, that was literally the easiest one, number 1. So I was quite surprised you can get it. 2 I've done already. Just look back in the video, you'll see that. 3 looks like it was done right. But again, you've got that same... Actually, to be fair, have you got that same thing? No, 3 was done right. 4, I believe, was done right. What it was. And 5 was, 5 wasn't. So I'm going to do 5 with you. So 5 is this. 5 is 6x squared plus 15x plus 6. All right? So what do I want there? I want 2 numbers that times to make 36 and adds to make 15. Okay? So I've got to be quite, see if I can find those numbers. See, 6 times 6 is 36, but they don't add up to make 15. 9 and 4, that's 13. That won't work. How about 15? Well, it will be 15 and 2, would it? What else is a factor? 4 and 9. We just tried 4 and 9. 2 and 18. What are the factors? Huh? Oh, of course, 12 and 3. What an idiot. Right, here we go. So 12 and 3, your numbers here. You put those guys in. I'll probably do it this way around. 6x squared plus 12x plus 3x plus 6. Factorize the first 2. You can get 6x out of that. Yes, Iman, you have a slight advantage over these guys. They're about 14. And they're learning all this stuff for the first time. X plus 2. And then there you've got 3 and x plus 2. All right? Final answer is 6x plus 3, x plus 2. All right? Nice and easy. So that's pretty much that. Yeah, 3 left. Okay, cool. So you guys, that's you and Numan, not Iman. Are you two happy-ish with this? Harris, obviously you need more practice with it. That's a fine. I think you both do to some extent. But you got hammered a bit harder, I think, on this one. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about graphs with it. So that if you've got that pencil and ruler ready, you're happy. I think that's about right. I mean, you sort of get it, but you just need more practice. It's not that you're completely failing at it. It's just like you're about 50-50 on it as it stands. It's good to see you two as well, my dude. I hope you're taking care of yourself and your family. I look forward to seeing you after Easter. We're going to try some new ideas, as we said. And you're more than welcome to sit in on this. We'll do a bit of graph stuff. Okay, cool. So have you ever, and I know you've done this sort of with me in Sat's question, I'm going to ask you to do this. So here is y equals x squared. And I think this was something that was set for you, if I remember correctly. I want you to fill in this table for me for x and y. -3, -2. And you're allowed to use a calculator. You shouldn't need one, but you can use it if you want. All right? And I want you to fill in these tables for me and then type in your numbers that you got for y. All right? So everyone reasonably clear on this. So Iman, I'm sure you can do this, but don't pop the answer in the chat box till the kids have. All right? So x and y, I want you to fill in this table for me. All right? Just fill in this table for me. And then Numan and Harris, can you pop in the chat box what you think the answers are? All right. And if you haven't got pencil and ruler and paper already, you're going to need it today. All right. So make sure you've got that. So first one's 9, second one's 4. Correct. Let's see Harris pop in a few now. 1-0. Yep. Can I ask you, Numan, just to hold off? I want Harris to do the last 3. They're the positive numbers. It shouldn't be too hard. Yep, brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, now I want you to draw me a grid, and you're going to be doing a fair amount of graph sketching today. So no whinging. Well, even if you do whinge, I can't hear you. So here's your axes. So I want this one to go 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. And I want this one to go up to 10. 1, 2, all the way up to 10. All right? Equal spaces. And I want you to plot this graph. When you finish plotting this graph, I want you to write in the chat box what you think it looks like. What sort of graph have you got? So draw these axes. 1, -1, -2, -3, 1, 2, 3, 1 to 10. I've only kind of made it short like this because I've only got a small thing there. I want you to make these equal distance apart, all right? And I want you to sketch the graph by plotting these points. Now, if there's any of that you can't do, you need to put in the chat box what you can't do. But I expect you to be able to draw the grid. And I hope you can plot the coordinates. But say so in the chat box if you can't, all right? So just to reiterate, make sure you've sketched the axes. Oh, is that lagging? Don't stress too much. As I said, like, just catch up from the minute it just catches up to play. So just to reiterate what I'm asking you to do, sketch graph, and I know that take a while, don't feel rushed. Take as long as you need to. And then plot the graph if you can. You've drawn the graph. What does it look like? Just describe it. Just describe its shape. What shape has it got? Yep, no worries. I understood what you meant. I drew the graph. I'm not here to be grammar Nazi. That's not what this is about. Nice that you corrected yourself. You think it looks like oh, you've drawn the axes. Yeah, the axes are drawn right. Now, can you plot the coordinate points? Okay, so the first one would be 0, 0, so it'd be there. Then you'll have 1 at 1, 1, so 1 across, 1 up. This is your left and right. And that's your up and down. Okay, just in case you forgot that. So can I ask you to plot these points? So this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And just remember, the X numbers are your left and right numbers, and your Y numbers are your up and down numbers. All right. So I want you to plot that and tell me what kind of shape of graph you get. That's what I'm going for. So Limon, how's it going for you? I haven't heard anything out of you. Harris is drawing the graph, I think. So what are you up to? Your shape might be very close. That's almost perfect. So in about 10 seconds, we'll go through this with you. Right, let's roll. So I'm just going to sketch this for you. All right, this is what it should look like. And remind you, and it's perhaps maybe a thing about scale that made it not work for you. -1, -2, -3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so obviously -3 and 3 are both 9. 2 and -2 are 4. 1 and -1 are 1. It's not quite a V shape. It's more like a U shape. Okay? It's more like a U shape. All right? And that's not the world's greatest drawing, and it should be symmetrical, but that's what you're looking for. All right? Now, I've got a more difficult challenge for you. Okay, so what I need you to do is get your pencil out and write what I'm going to ask you to do down. Now, before we go on, can you just pop in the chat box that you understood that? I think, Numan, you clearly did. All you did was like the shape is different. You know, you haven't seen a curved graph or many. You have this scale and this scale at about the same length. It's a weird graph, but that's right because they you've got it. You got it. Brilliant. Okay, cool. I think Harris is saying that he's lagging. I mean, just catch up when it catches up. So here's your question for you. So number one, factorize x squared plus 5x plus 6. All right? So that's number one. That's the first thing you need to do. Then I want you to do the table for x squared plus 5x plus 6 here. Where should I go from -4 to 0? Yep. And then number three, I want you to plot that graph. What are the solutions like? 3 and 2, aren't they? So before you get 6, before you get 16 minus 20. Well, plus 6 is the worst you're definitely going to get. So this goes up to, should we say 10? That goes to -10. You don't really actually need that side. You can make that as big as you want. -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay? And I'll move that so you can actually see that. So there's 3 things I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to factorize this guy. I want you to do the table for this guy. And then I want you to plot this guy. Okay? And this should go, this axis should go from 10. You can't see the bottom of this, but it should go to -10. I'll put -10 there. You still can't see it. If I move this down a bit. Oh, nice one. I'll put the axes next to it. I'll put the axes here then. So 3, the axis should look like this. It goes from 10 to -10, and of course from -4 to 0. And I mean, you can do that just a little bit of that side if you want, all right? Just to kind of show it's symmetrical. So those are the 3 things I want you to do. So I want you to factorize this guy, fill in the table for that guy for number 2, and then for number 3, I want you to plot. Okay? So that's 3 things I want you to do. I'll give you 7 minutes. I'll give you to like this. This is half an hour. So you got 6.5 minutes now. If you don't understand the question I'm asking you, pop it in the chat box and I'll obviously help you. So you need to factorize that first. Number 2, you need to fill in the table for it. And number 3, I want you to plot it. You've got about 5 minutes. You've got 3 tasks to do. Factorize, fill in the table, and sketch the graph. And if you don't know how to do any of those steps, pop something in the chat box. We've got about 2 or 3 more minutes to start talking you through this. What does y equal? Well, basically what you do is you put this number into there, and that's what you get y. So, for example, you can put 0 squared plus 5 times 0, which is still 0, plus 6. So you have 6. For minus 1, you do minus 1 squared, which is 1, plus 5 times minus 1, which is minus 5, plus 6, which would give you 1 minus 5 is minus 4, minus 4 plus 6 is positive 2. So basically, to get y, to work out what y is, you substitute each one of these numbers into that. All right. I didn't put y equals there deliberately because I asked you to factorize here, but the equation you're basically solving is y equals x squared plus 5x plus 6. All right, I know you can't see that, so I'll put that somewhere where you can see that here. So y equals x squared plus 5x plus 6. And what you do is you substitute each one of these numbers in. If you're not sure about how the numbers work, so you're not sure whether you're getting them right or not, put them in the chat box and I'll tell you if you're getting them right or not. All right. Seeing as that's where you're stuck on, I'll give you a few more minutes. So just to reiterate, every time there's an x, you replace it with these numbers. If you don't understand that, can you put that in a chat box as early as you possibly can? It's the same thing you did with y equals x squared. Right, you don't. Okay. So let's start with what the equation is. So the equation is y equals x squared plus 5x plus 6. And your table was meant to be x, y, and it goes minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0. Okay. The first one I'm going to do is 0 because it's the easiest. All right. So if you put 0 into this, you get 0 squared. That I don't even understand what you're saying anymore. 5 times 0. And then you're going to have plus 6. What's that add up? 0 squared is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. Add 6. You got 6 there. All right. What I'll do is I'll do -2 as well. If you put -2 in there, you've got -2 all squared. Be careful how you put that in your calculator. You need to have the brackets on it, otherwise the calculator will get it wrong. 5 times -2 plus 6. So -2 squared is 4. 5 times -2 is -10. So you've got 4 minus 10, which makes -6. Plus 6 is 0. So we know for -2, the answer is 0. Okay? That's how that works. Can you do the next 3 for me and tell me how you do? He's asking, is the answer 42? Okay, cool. -4 squared is positive 16. No, straight away it's not. I can tell you straight away it's not. All right? If you want to type in your working out how you got that number, that's fine. I'll be happy to correct it, but it's definitely wrong. You start popping up some solutions at the moment, that'd be great. Just for the table, if not the graph. That wasn't true. If you looked at the pictures, none of those numbers should be over 10. I'm going to start popping in the numbers now because we spent quite a lot of time on this. So -4 squared is positive 16. -5 times 4 is -20. So plus 6. So you'd get what? 22 minus 20, so that's 2. 3 is 0. -1 is what? +1, -5. Is that, so these are your numbers, 2, 0, 0, 2, 6. Yeah? So none of your numbers are massive. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know about that. Thank you, Harris. You done graph, what's it look like? So pop in the chat what the graph looks like. Sort of a J. Yeah, it does. On the numbers that I gave you, it would look like a J. I'm going to pop a quick sketch here. At 0, it's 6. So it sort of look like that. And it's going through -3 and it's going through -2. So that's pretty much what it should look like, right? And this side is obviously going to be higher than that side. All right. What's special about these two numbers, -3 and -2? What's the connection between the -3 and the -2 and the factorization? Because I asked you to factorize as your very first part of the question. It's not slanted. It's just, it's a U shape with one side taller than the other. That's what it really is, to tell truth, right? And the reason why is I've only taken a certain set of numbers. If I went from -infinity to +infinity, right, then you'd see a U, a perfect U, all right? Yeah, night sign would be a shout, yeah. The question I was asking you, though, is what connection have these numbers here, -3 and -2, got to do with your factorization? Yeah? Alison, you agree clearly. Oops. So what connection have these numbers, -3 and -2, got to do with your factorization? Can you see any type of connection between those, the graph cutting through the x-axis at -3 and -2, or the factorization? They're both at 0. Well, yeah, that's pretty much what we're saying. That -3 and -2 cut through the x-axis. So that means, yeah, y equals 0. That's true. But what's it got to do with the factorization, though? You're talking about what it's got to do with the table, and you're right. What you're saying isn't wrong. Right. So if you look at the factorization, what do you get? You get x plus 3, x plus 2. And there you've got 3 there, and you've got a 2 there, but it's just the opposite signs. All right? So the connection between the factorization and the y-intercept, so the x-intercepts rather, is what numbers make these brackets 0? -3 and -2. Yeah? And that's why it cuts, because this is when you already spotted this. These two things happen when it does equal 0. So remember, if it equals 0, either this bracket is 0 or that bracket is 0. So from your factorization, you can straight away tell where it's going to cut the x-axis. All right? You can also use your equation to tell where it's going to cut the y-axis. On our graph, it cut the y-axis at 6. What's this number? 6. So the number is the y-intercept. And the factorization will give you where it crossed the x-axis. All right? And that can save us a lot of work, because now we don't have to do a table every single time. Let me show you a quick example. So suppose I did x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. All right? We'll do that one. I can factorize that quickly, and I'll get x minus 2, x minus 1. Okay? Make that equal y, sorry. Yeah? And I can draw that straight away. I know it's going to go through positive 2 and positive 1. How do I know that? It's what makes this 0. And I also know it's going to go through plus 2 on the y-axis. So can you see I could just draw the graph just like that? No rush. Yeah? So you can see it's such an advantage that if you factorize, you don't have to bother with the table so much. All right? Obviously, if they ask you an exam to plot, yeah? So if they use the word plot, then you have to do the table, yeah? But if they're just saying the word sketch, you can literally do what I just did there. Can I ask you just to take notes for a minute? And then I'm going to give you one that you can do really quickly, all right? So what have I taught you so far? If you factorize, you can work out where the graph is going to cut through the x-axis. And with the number at the end is where it's going to cut through the y-axis, all right? So hopefully that's making sense to you. I'll give you a few more seconds to kind of do that. Then I'm going to give you one to try, and I'm going to try a slightly different example. Brilliant. Okay, so can I ask you, without doing a table, to sketch this graph for me? Okay, without drawing any table at all, quickly sketch this graph for me, all right? And when you've done it, tell me where it cuts through the x-axis and where it cuts through the y-axis. In maths language, that's called the x-intercept, and there can be two of those, potentially, and the y-intercept, all right? So where it cuts the x-axis is called the x-intercept, where it cuts the y-axis is called the y-intercept. And for a quadratic equation, you can have two x-intercepts, or two distinct x-intercepts. You can, doesn't mean you do. So you're saying 7 and 12? Nope. What would you need to do? You need to factorize it before. Yeah? So factorize it first. That will tell you where the x-intercepts are. Yeah? So you can't just read the graph and go, those are the x-intercepts. You've got to factorize it first. And then you can look at it and just go, those are the x-intercepts. All right? The y-intercept, you can just look at it. Yeah? You can go, oh, the y-intercept is cutting through the y-axis at 12. And just look at the graph. Look at the equation. Yeah, it's 12. All right? So that should be a y there. But for the x-intercepts, you must factorize first. And now you can start seeing why I've been so forceful on the factorization, because it's so super useful and it's stuff that we're going to be using over and over again over the course of the next 2 years. So pop in the chat box the x and y intercepts that you found. The y-intercept we should have. Could one of them be 6? No, it's not 6. Definitely not 6. So again, factorizing is letting you down. And that's interesting. So we spend a lot of time factorizing. So you need two numbers that times to make 12 and adds to make -7. Shouldn't be too hard. You need to learn it now because we need it for a lot of stuff, Harris. All right, you've got to keep practicing. Because the thing is, I teach it to you, then you don't do enough of it over the week, and then you forget it. All right? Numan, mostly there, but you're still making that same mistake of not finishing the question. So let me just rub this out. You've written xx plus 4 plus 3x plus 4. You need to stop doing that. Because you know what? I've said this to you once already. Whatever's on the outside of the bracket, put in its own bracket. That is a completed factorization. That is like 3 marks out of 5. Not that you get 5 marks factorization because it's easy. All right? So that's what a factorization, yes, that's better, right? So never, if you find that you've written that as your final answer, remember what I'm saying to you, that you haven't finished. You must do that final line. Okay, now the only problem is you've got these as positives, and of course they're not, they're negatives. Bottom, that's fine, okay? I've just copied you. But because we were doing x squared minus 7x, so obviously your numbers would be negative, wouldn't they? Minus 3 and minus 4 times to make positive 12, adds together to make negative 7. That's it. Well done, Harris. All right? Your homework this week is going to be, again, factorization. You have to practice. I'll have a chat with Sunila. She can set you some more as well. Because, like, a lot of the stuff, like the next thing we're going to teach you after this, we're going to carry on with graphs for another week. And then the week after that is completing the square. All this stuff basically works around factorization, the ideas of factorization. So if you don't master it now, literally the next few weeks are going to be hell for you. So this is your time. Like, you're on holiday, you've got nothing better to do. You're stuck in home anyways, right? Don't go too far. This is your time to get good. Seriously get good. Okay, brilliant. All right, cool. So let's go back to the question. We can look at this now and say that where is this graph going to cut the y-axis? Not the x-axis, the y-axis. Just look at this graph. Where is it going to cut the y-axis? It is very hard learning through a screen. That's why you got to do a lot of practice at home. Yeah, I understand that. But you're going to be doing this possibly until, they're talking about till the 2nd week of September. No, man, that's wrong on every level. Let me just finish talking to Harris and I'm going to talk you through this again. Clearly you didn't get this. And that's why I say take notes as well, right? If you haven't taken notes, it's your fault you didn't understand it because you could look at your notes. If you did take notes, that's another matter. I'll explain it again, right? Okay, let's just finish on this. This number here is where it cuts the y-axis. So when you get your original equation, the number at the end is, yes, that's it. This is the guy that is where it cuts the y-axis. For these guys, it isn't just to read off the number, it's what makes the bracket equal 0. So here it will be +3, and here it will be +4. So these are your x-intercepts, so this is where it cuts the x-axis, and these are your y, okay? So these are your x's, and that's just your y. So what would it look like? Let's just do a quick sketch. It would go through 12 there. And you can see how roughly I'm doing the diagram. It doesn't have to be very good. It just needs to have the general shape, so the U shape, and where it cuts the axes to be a sketch. Now, if it's a plot, that's a whole different matter. So I've talked about this before. Sketch can be as rough as that. Plot, you have to plot the coordinates perfectly. Okay, so we started off this lesson doing a plot. Now I'm showing you that you can sketch these things, and sketching is a lot less onerous. To get the credit, what do you need to do? You need to find the general shape. You need to know it's a U shape. They're not all U shapes, and we'll come on to that soon. You need to know where it cuts the x-axis. Those are called the x-intercepts, and you need to know where it cuts the y-axis. So I'm going to ask you again, take notes on what I've told you, right? How do you know something's cut the y-axis? You know something's cut the y-axis because it's that number, yeah? Okay, it's that number. To find out where it cuts the x-axis, you have to factorize, and you have to find out what makes each bracket equal 0. So here I had 3 and 4, so there was 2 numbers that made a bracket equal 0. 3 made that bracket equal 0. 4 made that bracket equal 0, right? So I know it's going to cut through the x-axis at 3 and 4. If you think you're going to forget that by next week, write it down, right? Treat it as a lesson, because otherwise we'll be doing the same thing over and over again every lesson until you get it, right? What I'm going to do in the last going to give you about another minute to take notes. I'm going to do a couple more examples in front of you. Then I'm going to explain to you what your homework is. All right? I'll give that a few more seconds. Okay. Let's do another example. This time we're going to do y equals, let's go with 3x squared plus, thank you, 7x plus 4. Let's do a nice easy one to start off with. So again, it's factorization we need to do to start with. I want to sketch this. I'm going to sketch this. What do I need to do? First of all, I know the graph's going to go through 4. Yeah? Straight away, I know it's going to go through 4. On which axis? The y-axis. All right? So automatically, just by looking at the graph in that form, you know that the last number is 4. Yeah? Okay. Let's factorize this guy. So you remember the rules. You need two numbers that times to make 12 and adds to make 7. 3 and 4 quite easily the answer here. So again, I said I did pick an easy one this time. So it's 3x squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 4. Remember, we use this method, the AC method, where you have to split the middle bit if there's a number in front of the x squared. Yeah? And the maths language for that is if it's non-monic. And monic just means it's just x squared. Right? So if it's not a monic, we have to do it the long way around. We factorize this guy out, you get 3x x plus 1. And you factorize this guy out, you get 4x plus 1. And you remember the rule for this, if these two turn out different, then you made a mistake. And then your final answer is 3x plus 4, x plus 1 in terms of your factorization. It's not the final answer in terms of your graph. What does your graph look like? Well, we know it's going to go through the x-axis at 4. How do we know that? So the y-axis at 4. How do we know that? Because that's the number here, right? What's going to make this bracket 0? -1. Yeah? What's going to make this bracket 0? This is a bit harder. You just literally need to solve the equation. 3x plus 4, and I'll put this here. 3x plus 4 equals 0. Then you get x equals -4/3. All right? So it's going to go through -1 and -4/3. And then you just do your U shape, and there you go. Okay, so it's a really rubbish U shape. I'll put that in so you can see it. All of that is all of that. I can go. So it's -4/3 and -1. Now, how did I get the -4/3? That's probably the hardest bit. I put this equal to 0 and solved. So I put 3x plus 4 equal to 0. Remember, I said what makes the bracket equal 0? And that gives you x equals -4/3. So that's how any type of factorization can tell you something useful about a graph. Okay? We'll do one more example. Then I'm going to write out your homework on the whiteboard. You need to understand what the hell you're doing, all right? It's not a negotiable. It's not like we're doing this because for fun or I'm doing this to earn my whatever money because I haven't got any money out of it and I don't really care either at the moment. The point of the matter is your education is going to be messed up till probably the week. You might get the first 2 weeks back before September. So you might get like 2 weeks in July, maybe. Yeah, maybe. But this is not like a side thing we're doing for fun. This is literally your education at this point, all right? So you need to take it super, super seriously. Otherwise, your year is just going to be messed up compared to every other year. All right, cool. Last one. X squared plus, let's pick a nice easy one to kick off with. No, let's not. Let's do that. Let's do that one. Okay? So if I do this, I need two numbers that times to make 1 and adds to make 2. And believe it or not, that's just 1 and 1. So x plus 1 equals 0. Okay, great. Interesting one. Interesting one. What does it look like? Well, we can straight away tell it's going to go through the y-axis at 1. So if I sketch that, it's going to go through 1. But both of these numbers, when they equal 0, would give you -1 and -1. So what does that mean? It means the graph touches the x-axis at -1 and bounces off. All right? Because it can't cut through because both the times it touches it is the same point there. So you're going to have a U shape that looks like that. All right? It's not even quite GCSE maths there, Kelvin. Good to see you. Hope you're well, by the way. I'm streaming top end year 9, I'd say. I'd call it top end year 9. Just the connection between factorization and graph sketching. I mean, feel free to watch it through, but you know all this stuff already, Kelvin. Don't worry. Okay? So that's an example of, like, suppose your factorization comes out the same number both times. Well, great, fine. Don't draw it punching through. Draw it bouncing off. All right? Right. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to copy that. Again, remind yourself of the key ideas. If the equation, so it's actually equal y, if the equation has a number there, that's where it cuts the y-axis, then you factorize it. And whatever number makes each bracket into 0, that's the one where it cuts the x-axis. And if it's the same number twice, well, do you know what? It's not cutting anything. It's just touching there. All right? And that's true for higher power, but we won't have to come on to that till we do A-level, which is about 2 and a bit years away. All right? So I'm going to give you about another 30 seconds to copy down examples. It is key that you understand the major ideas behind this, right? This is all about you understanding what is the connection between factorization and graph sketching. If you don't understand that, again, you can drop me a message. I mean, it's over Easter. I can make another video in the middle of the week if that's necessary. I don't mind. It's like, well, nothing better to do. But, like, you can't give up is the point, all right? Because all of your lessons are going to look a bit like this. You might use Google Classrooms, you might use YouTube, you might use Microsoft Teams, but you're not going to be seeing anyone face-to-face until probably at least June. I mean, if you're back in class by June, we'll have done very, very well. I just don't see it, though, I'll be honest with you. I don't see it. All right? I mean, Kelvin, if you're still here, I'd love to have the last 2 weeks back, but it's in the hands of God at this point. Right, what I'm going to do is pop up the questions I want you to do for your homework. Let's go. So x squared. Let's do ones that you haven't seen before. Let's go with 6x plus 9 equals y. So all of these, I want you to factorize them and I want you to sketch them. Okay. So I want the pictures. Make it absolutely clear on this. I want the pictures. The pictures are super necessary. All right. So each one of these, I want you to sketch after having factorized. They give you homework as well, but the point is you need to understand it. They can give you work for sure, yeah? But if you haven't learned anything new over the course of, say, the whole of the summer term, your life is going to be harder when you go to year 10, right? Because, like, everyone else who's ever done this has had the opportunity to, they've just had normal classes. And you, your generation, your year, won't have had those opportunities. So you've got to look after yourself, right? I get that. That's what they need to do. They absolutely need to do that. It'll be interesting. Can you send a video after? Yeah, the video is going to stay up online. Don't worry about that. Okay, the video is going to be stay up online. And if you find you really can't do these, I can make another video later on this, like, maybe Wednesday or something. There's 4 there, isn't there? Yeah, that one. 1 up here, maybe. They're right, really small. You can't see that one. I think you can. I can see it on the screen. Yeah, don't worry. That might work. Whoops, sorry. Because you've only got 5. But remember, for each one of these, you need a sketch. Yeah? So I want you to factorize it, sketch it. To get full credit on the sketch, you need to have the right shape. Yeah? So it's got to be the right shape. And it's going to be a U shape for every single one of these. So you don't distress too much about that. The X-Intercepts, that's where it cuts the X-axis, and the Y-intercepts. Yeah? So each one is going to get graded out of 3. All right? So your maximum total mark on this is out of 15. All right? And good thing for you as well, Harris, especially you get a bit more chance to factorize as well. So you're still practicing factorization in there as well. Okay? Next lesson, we're going to do what happens when it's not a U shape, because there's another option. It could be a different shape, which I won't spoil now. All right? So that's what we'll be covering next Saturday. All right? And that's me done for today. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat box. I was going to pop a message for your mum. In fact, I'll send her a picture of the homework. Any other further questions? Otherwise, I am popping off this channel. Have a lovely Easter as far as you can. At least you've got some green space near your house, right? That's something. It's not much green space, to be fair, but you know. And go out and play a bit. Anyways, take care, yeah? Thanks, boss. Look after yourself. Look after yourself, Niman. Look after yourself, Harris. Take care, yeah?